Okay, this is a very, very old book, Vivian. This is Chuck-a-Luck and His Reindeer by Berta and Elmer Hader. Very old. This was given to Ross Farrar Smith, Christmas of 1934. Do you know who Ross Smith is?
Mm-mm.
Mommy, do you remember who Ross Smith is?
He was my uncle, Vivian.
Yeah,
Mom's great uncle.
Mm-hmm. He's the one that you were breastfeeding at his funeral, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yep.
The pastor got mad at us because we weren't singing.
Yeah, because you were breastfeeding in the
But
back.
everyone else was like, "Oh, your baby was so quiet."
So, Chuck-a-Luck and His Reindeer by Berta and Elmer Hader. The Boston Houghton Mifflin Company, 1933. Very old book. Okay. Chuck-a-Luck, who was a little Eskimo boy. Chuck-a-Luck was a little Eskimo boy. He lived in Alaska with his father and mother and sister and brother. They had 6 dogs and many reindeer, for Chuck-a-Luck's father was a reindeer herder. When spring came after a long, dark winter, Chuck-a-Luck and his family were glad. The warm sun melted the snow, and they knew it was time to urge their herd of reindeer over the hills and valleys to their camp near the ocean. They packed their sleds and furs and skins. Chuck-a-Luck's sister and baby brother sat on the first sled. Chuck-a-Luck and his family were happy, for there were many baby reindeer in the herd this spring. The reindeer supplied their food and clothing, and the Eskimos could not live without them. Chuck-a-Luck's father gave him the firstborn fawn for his own. He named him Tuggaloo. Most reindeer babies are brown or spotted, but Tuggaloo was as white as the Arctic snow. Reindeer babies do not stay long in their soft, mossy cradles. An hour after he was born, Tuggaloo was walking close beside his mother. Chuck-a-Luck kept near his pet. When Tuggaloo was born, his mother had beautiful antlers on her head. Soon she shed them. Chuck-a-Luck saved them so that his father could make a handle for his knife and some needles for his mother. Every year the reindeer shed their antlers and grow new ones. Before long, 2 little knobs would push upward on Tuggaloo's head. Soft and small at first, they would grow larger and larger and harden into fine branching antlers like his father's. Tuggaloo's father was the leader of the herd. He wore a bell hung on a cord around his neck. Sometimes Chuck-a-Luck rode on his back. The little family of Eskimos slowly drove their herd from the upper valleys to the wind-swept tundras below. The reindeer ate the snow-covered moss, which they dug up with their strong hooves. Other Eskimos with their herds joined them. They crossed the wide tundras, where the melting snow left a green carpet of grass and sedge and many gay flowers. When they reached the camp by the ocean, the Eskimos drove their herds into a great corral. Chuck-a-Luck's father and the other herders counted the reindeer and marked the new ones. Then they turned the herds out to graze on lichens, mushrooms, and sweet willow shoots that grew near the shore. Chuck-a-Luck's mother and sister made coffee and brought it to the herders who had worked so hard counting and marking the reindeer. After the short northern summer, Chuck-a-Luck and his family drove their herd of reindeer toward their winter home in the mountains, where they would live until the next spring. Tuggaloo grew rapidly. When he was big enough, Chuck-a-Luck's father made a harness for him and taught him to pull a sled. Chuck-a-Luck and his sister loved to ride on the sled. Then Chuck-a-Luck tried to ride on his reindeer's back. Tuggaloo jumped and bucked and ran very fast, but Chuck-a-Luck never fell off. One year before they went back to the mountains, Chuck-a-Luck and his father drove Tuggaloo and 4 other reindeer on board a big ship. They started on a long journey toward a great city far away. The reindeer did not like the ship, but Chuck-a-Luck and his father enjoyed the trip. When they arrived in the city, the reindeer were hitched to a gay sled heaped with toys. Tuggaloo was the leader of the team. They stood all day in a big store with a jolly fellow who had long white whiskers. He wore a bright red suit and hat. His name was Santa Claus. Hundreds of children came to see the reindeer and to shake hands with Santa Claus. Tugaloo liked the children, and he shook his head proudly when they called him Donder or Blitzen. But Tugaloo was homesick. He longed for the snow-covered tundras of the north. One day he could not stand it no longer. He jumped over the fence, his harness broke, and away he went. Dolls and drums and teddy bears tumbled in every direction as he ran. Chuck-a-Luck ran after him, shouting. He grabbed the halter rope just as Tugaloo crashed into the doll carriages. Chuck-a-Luck hung on to his pet. Santa Claus and his father came. They all agreed it was time for Tugaloo to go home. Chuck-a-Luck was glad to return to his home in the far north, and so were his father and all the reindeer. Chuck-a-Luck's mother and sister and baby brother were happy to see them again. Chuck-a-Luck told his sister and his baby brother about the children and the many strange things he had seen in the big city, and he gave them each a present from Santa Claus. Chuck-a-Luck's father put a cord with a bell around Tugaloo's neck. Now Tugaloo leads the herd over the tundras just as wisely as his father did before him. And so we leave Chuck-a-Luck and his reindeer, happy and content in their Arctic home. The end. Isn't that neat?
Mm-hmm.
That's a very old book. Say bye.
Bye. Why does this pot move?
Because the book is so old, it started to fray at the edges here and come apart. And that's why we have to be very careful when we're reading it. And that's why I wanted to make sure I read it to you, just in case it does break, so that you always can remember it, just like your great Uncle Ross.
And we have a video of
Well,
it.
your
now.
great Uncle Ross, I should say.
Now we have a video of
We
it.
have a video of it.
So we remember.
Yeah, good girl.